Welcome to the Humanity Sells Podcast, where we talk about the marketing revolution that's happening in tech consulting and how the best businesses are elevating their brand, amplifying their message, and selling more by being more human. We're your hosts, Brandon Triola.
And I'm Nate Nitty. Let's get into it.
What are some brands that make you emotional?
Did you want to start by telling a story?
Yeah, I was just gonna tell a story about a story that pulls us into this. Are we recording that? Oh, I didn't even know. That's funny. I'm just not gonna ask that from now on. One of the things that, and I've told you this story before, but one of the things that sort of like marked me as a creative person that realized I wanted to become continually passionate for the rest of my career about why people buy things was I watched one of those commercials that makes you cry.
Oh.
You ever watch a commercial that makes you cry?
I don't cry. Just being honest. I've cried like 5 times since I became an adult.
Maybe you should watch more of the commercials that I watch.
I watch them. I just shove it down.
You're just so... We're being repressed.
Yeah, it's my life. My wife has seen me cry. We've been married for a decade. She's seen me cry maybe 5 times.
On your wedding night, huh?
Didn't cry. She cried.
Well, I actually cry, and I think it's always fascinating when a commercial or like an ad makes you cry. And the best marketing, I feel like, is when something makes you cry and makes you emotional. But I'll never forget, I was in a client meeting and we were talking about branding and strategy, and we were talking about how to position this thing and like go to market with it. And we had hired this consultant that was like a storytelling consultant, and he showed us this commercial for this leather bag, like not a big deal, right? You would think. And the ad, the commercial, the video goes in to tell the story about a father going to World War II, and he's writing a letter to his son knowing that he'll probably never return again.
Yeah.
And he writes this letter, and the whole ad is the script of the letter being read. And it's the father giving his son lessons to live by, like rules to live by, because you will not have me with you anymore.
Jeez Louise.
And he says something in the video. He goes, don't live to get things. Have a few things, but make them good things.
Ooh.
There's nothing like the smell of like machines that work and good leather.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing in the whole script about leather. But the video is the story of this kid going into a barn and pulling out this old leather bag with these notes from his late father who had passed and reading the letter. And the bag that they're selling, this brand is selling this leather bag, had just become a prop in this greater emotional story. So by the end of the video, you're not thinking about the bag. And at the time, my wife was pregnant with our first child, which was a son. So that might have punched me right in the story gut.
Yeah.
But I look around the room at all these business people and other consultants and the team that I was working on at that time, and everybody's just tears streaming down their face. And the storytelling consultant looked up and he was like, that bag sold out, and within hours of this going live. You could not even buy one now if you wanted to. They were gone. This ad went out into the world, sold out. $1,800 a bag for these bags, or like $2,400. They were really nice, expensive. And he was trying to make this point that people do not buy solutions to external problems. They buy solutions to internal problems. They buy the emotional thing, like we talked about on a previous episode, right? People, like, what's the emotion that you sell? And we're emotional creatures, right? And I'll just never forget sitting there watching a video, crying about telling a story, watching a story, crying, learning about storytelling and how to tell a story. And I just remember going, I want to, in whatever industry I end up working in, whatever I'm doing, I want to make people feel that way about making purchasing decisions and buying things. Yeah. I think in B2B tech, it's just really hard.
Wow. That's amazing. It's a powerful narrative, even just for a leather bag.
We'll put the link in the notes.
They're selling legacy.
Yeah.
I want to buy one just from you telling me that story. I feel the same way about Patagonia. I mean, it's all political agendas aside, you know that their communication about where they source their products, how they're manufactured, what they do with their money for conservation. It's like
you can have a couple Patagonia things I've seen.
Yeah, you can go buy a jacket for $40 somewhere, or you could spend $100, but you know that your money is going towards these larger narratives that you believe in. And to be honest, I think that they're like actually for good, like they're actually doing it for good. But even if they were just doing it to manipulate me into getting money,
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm part of a larger story.
Yeah.
By buying a stupid jacket than I would be otherwise.
I think that's the power of storytelling, right?
Do you think that is a unique thing that marks our generation versus previous
100%.
generation? The response to being a part of a larger narrative.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of studies now about like millennials and Gen Z and how we are the purpose hungry generation.
Yeah,
I think for B2B tech, it's important to note that it's our age group, right? I'll be 36 here in a couple weeks. Our age group and even the Gen Z behind us are going to own like 90% of the buying market across all industries. So not just consumer goods, right? Because we're kind of talking about consumer products right now, but even in B2B tech, the people that are going to be making the buying decisions are not going to be baby boomers for much longer. They're not going to be cerebral decision makers. They're going to be emotional decision makers. And so one of the ways that you can actually humanize the experience that people have with your consulting company or your offerings or your products is storytelling. And it's become a buzzword. I kind of have a beef with it because I hear so many people use the word storytelling. I even hear executive teams and people on the board like, yeah, but what's the story that we're telling? Nobody really knows what that means. If I say like, what's your story? Or like, what's your business's story? That could mean so many different things. It's super, super subjective. And what I like to do is try to hone in on what that actually means and like have a framework, especially with our clients that we work with, give them a framework for what storytelling means. And I think a lot of B2B tech people are really scared of storytelling. They're not sure how to do it because again, that word is subjective, but I think it's possible. And I think in order to stand out and to build trust, you have to do storytelling, whatever that looks like. Right. And I think there is a way that it looks like, we can get into that a little bit, but, I think it's important to talk about that. These brands that make you feel emotional, brands that you remember, brands that are unforgettable, they're usually the ones that are telling a really good story. And I think there's a lot that B2B tech and B2B in general can learn from B2C because it seems like B2C has figured this out, right? Like it's not just leather bags or Patagonia. There's other brands doing this, right?
Yeah. I mean, my question is, I'm a purpose-driven human and I identify with companies that I want to be a part of companies that have a larger story, for sure. My question is, when is it manipulative and a means to an end? Because sometimes you'll see like a commercial come on and it's like this, I don't know, I'll make this up, but it's like a mom and a dad, like they just had their son.
They're crying.
And they're crying in the doctor's office and you hand them the kid and they're like, oh my God. And then it cuts and it's like Subaru. And you're like, what?
Get this child home safely.
What is this? Like you're pulling on my heartstrings. And
you wouldn't bring this baby home in a Chevy,
and
would
you? Are you a monster?
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't drive this thing home in a Chevy.
Bring this baby home in a car that'll be around in 12 years, okay? And still running.
Yeah,
and probably won't even need an oil change.
And they do that too. Like some of their, specifically Subaru, their commercials are like they show a picture of a kid running and the car brakes on its own before it hits the kid. It's like, geez Louise. Like they kind of unlock your heartstrings and then before you can close it back up, they slip their brand in there and you're like, oh, Subaru's stuck in my heart. Like, get out. Yeah. So my question for you is like B2B tech. This is the industry that we're in, software consulting.
I feel like you're about to throw a pitch at me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to hit it.
It's okay. Where's the line between pulling a purpose out of thin air to sell more technology because you want to make more money and actually having a bigger why attached to your business? How do you go about thinking about that? Because you can, sorry, I'm just going to keep going. You can manufacture a why.
Oh yeah.
And you can rally people behind. These are cults.
You can
You can make something up and get people behind it, and now you have a following.
The windows are blacked out to protect you, okay? Yeah. Too soon?
Anyway, where do you think the line is for tech companies, and like how do you find, I guess what I'm asking is coach us on how to find a larger story without being manipulative? Man,
that's such a great question. To the credit of the brilliant tech leaders that we know, like some of them are our friends, this is one of the hardest things for them. And I empathize with them because to their credit, they don't want fluff and they don't want to seem like they're BSing people.
Yeah.
And that's a credit to their honesty. And I think the paradox or the irony, if you will, of that is I think the best way to do that, to make it not fluff or manipulative, is just be honest. But it just takes work to find that honest story. So if your technology, if your company like exists to do this thing and it's just to make a profit, it's going to be really hard for you to tell a story. If the only reason that you exist is to just make revenue, right?
You can be successful though.
You can be very successful, yes, but to actually like have magnifying trust and like an elevated brand and a business where people want to come work for you because they believe in what you're doing, which we see this happening in the tech world. So it's not that it's impossible.
Yeah.
Like we see ServiceNow doing a great job of this.
Yeah.
ServiceNow has done this amazing thing where they've built this narrative of helping the world work and helping the people that make up our workforce. And it's not super like deep, but it's not super fluffy.
It's honest.
It's a really honest, powerful why. Now, does ServiceNow, like, are they trying to make money? Absolutely they are. And they're going to make a ton more of it. They're going to keep growing. But when you look at what their brand has done, they've understood the value of story at an enterprise level, and they've molded their brand and shaped it around this story they're telling about workers of the world. So when you see their stuff that goes out into the world, you see their visual identity even, and you see their ads and their LinkedIn content, it's people. It's like workers. It's people smiling and at work, and they're making work and life better for people ultimately, because there's this whole narrative around the biggest part of our life is the time we spend at work. So ServiceNow is doing a great job of this, and technology leaders can do this. It's not hard. You just have to be really honest, and you have to find out like, and come to an agreement. Like, why do we want to exist? Like, why do we want to be here? Why do we want to, what is the impact that we want to leave on the world because we're here? And you can find it. You have to look for it, and you have to want to find it. And that is where I think the challenge happens, and where people fall short, because again, it's that left side of the brain doesn't want to go there, but it's an emotional right side of the brain thing to say, if our company didn't exist anymore, your company went away tomorrow, what would the world be missing out on?
A lot of companies would say, if they're honest, not much.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, like try to figure out, no, like we are existing, like we're putting our flag in the ground to make the world this way, or to leave this kind of world behind. And it doesn't have to be big and fluffy. It can be to build a more confident enterprise for this people or something like that. But you have to find out what that is, and you have to invest in doing that. And when you see other tech companies doing it, that's how you know it's possible. So I would say that it's harder for like a B2C company to do. Like I use the analogy all the time of coffee shops. It's much easier to build a human-centered business and brand for a coffee shop than it is to build one for like an enterprise tech consultancy.
Yeah.
Because you're selling coffee to like one person, and especially if you're a brick and mortar shop in a certain area with a certain demographic, you've got, white moms who are 45 and drive Range Rovers. Your whole brand is going to be around, their status and elevating them. It's really easy. It's much harder to do when there's more people at the table to buy. But
there's a couple, I think one brand in particular that does it really well. If you want to look them up, more big fans, ClickUp.
Big fans of ClickUp. Yep.
ClickUp is a tech company that makes productivity software, project management software. They're kind of like the everything company, but they have this promise: save 1 day a week guaranteed. Their whole thing is like, we're on a mission to make the world more productive.
Yeah.
And while that's not some big Subaru baby safety thing,
yeah,
it is a why that galvanizes not only their employees, but the marketplace. It's like, I could choose between this one, or the company that cares about making me the most productive. I know I need to be productive because this company hired me for X salary to be productive. I align with that why I'm in. Maybe in the next episode, we can unpack some like how to build a story around your brand and your company.
Yeah, I think
B2B
that'd be
tech.
great. I think that's awesome. There's a lot of tech companies doing this. I think ClickUp definitely comes to mind. I think there's another, maybe lesser known, but still a really big tech company called Celonis. They're a consultancy, but you can look them up. When you look at their website and their brand presence and how they talk about themselves, you can see the story that they're telling, and you can see that they've got a very, very complicated and complex left brain type of thing that they do, but the way that they talk about it, you could tell that they understand storytelling.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, they've understood we had to humanize how people interact with our brand for the space that we're in, and it's actually helped them stand out in some amazing ways. They're one of my favorites.
Too. Slalom just came out with their Fiercely Human consulting campaign.
It's brilliant. And geniuses.
I was kind of pissed actually. I was like,
hey, we should get them on the podcast.
Yeah.
We will get them. We'll get somebody on the podcast.
Slalom, we're coming for you. I just want you to know.
Yep.
They're doing great. They just
tell
put
them to slalom down a little bit.
And with that, we're gonna wind it down. In the next episode, we'll get into how you can create a story if you're a tech consultancy, tech focused business, how to build a story around your brand.